Hello lovely ladies and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to talk about the importance of detachment, especially as a woman who is currently on her journey towards ascension, whether spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and even to some degree physically. Now, when you hear the word detachment, people automatically assume that, detachment means that we have to detach from our emotions to the point where we are emotionless, which is entirely untrue. We can feel our emotions. This is where compartmentalization comes into play. You have to be able to pick a time and a place for you to feel and undergo the emotions that you are feeling, but not to the point where you are completely detaching from it. It's just that you're not leading with those emotions, because I find when you lead with your emotions, especially as a woman, it's so easy to get attached to people, to outcomes, to circumstances, to trauma, to the point where we become sponges. We absorb every single drop, and therefore it becomes even more chaotic when you release it, because so much is already being poured out because you have held in so much. When in reality, detachment is not coldness, it's not bitterness, it's really a form of protection. And as women, we're often taught to pour, fix, and prove to other people that we are enough. But instead, detachment says, I can care without clinging, I can love without losing myself, and I can walk away without burning out and also keeping my dignity and my self-respect intact. Detachment really is the quiet confidence that says, if it's meant for me, it'll stay. If not, well then look, it was fun, but I have to release it back to the universe. You don't have to fight for what is already yours. Whatever is already yours, you receive it with ease. It comes naturally. You don't have to rip someone's hair out. You don't have to constantly prove that you are valuable. Because if you have to constantly prove your worth and your value to people, that it's going to burn you out. And then you're also telling yourself that, well, wait a minute, I'm actually not valuable. If I'm truly valuable, I wouldn't be in a perpetual state of having to prove my value to people. People should just see it. It's an experience. I'll definitely make a video talking about this because I got some gems that I can give the girls. And this brings me back to a time in my life when I was very young, in my early 20s, where I was so adamant on achieving and becoming a particular woman that I've always envisioned. And that woman was confident, bold, beautiful, magnetic, and captivating. And I thought that if I just go really fast and I hyperfixate on the outcome, that I'm able to become that woman much quicker. Well, the universe said, no girl, you better stop, or I'm gonna burn you out, and therefore you have no choice but to just be and to go slow and detach from these outcomes that you want so badly. Because really, I was operating out of desperation, and also I was comparing myself a lot. I had to really just slow down and just be 1% better. And that's what I did. And lo and behold, when I hit my 30s, especially shortly after the pandemic, I slowly noticed myself becoming that woman where I wasn't so emotionally attached to outcomes. I wasn't so emotionally attached to people. I was able to take that energy and really just pour it back into myself. And at first you feel really selfish. It feels awkward and you almost feel like a bad person, but then it's like, no, wait a minute, Camille, you're detaching. It's not about not caring. It's about caring from a place of more groundedness as opposed to desperation or fear of loss. Because I believe that, well, oh my goodness, if I lose this, something better is not going to come along. You see how deeply rooted that is in scarcity? And it also brings me back to the story about Oshun, who is the Yoruba goddess across the African diaspora. And she is a goddess of water, of love, of sensuality, fertility, and femininity. And what made Oshun so profound is that she had a lot of wisdom, especially when it came to emotional intelligence and spiritual balance, as well as detachment. Even with her being a goddess of love and connection, there's an essential piece that's overlooked when it came to her, right? So when it came to detachment for her, it wasn't about coldness or indifference. It's the deep knowing that in order for you to have love, in order for you to have flow, it has to flow like water, right? Because she is the goddess of water. And you can't hold on to something so tightly. So imagine trying to grab water in an ocean and holding on to it tightly. You can't do that. It's impossible. And water naturally flows. And Oshun embodied that. She is teaching us, especially as women, that real love doesn't come from control or clinging on to someone because you love them so much. If you really love someone so much, you wouldn't be so clingy. You wouldn't have such a tight grip and strong hold on them, right? She may have been able to attract deeply, but she also flows. So letting go of that grip, letting go of that desired outcome. She moves when she's not honored, or if the balance is broken. And this just reminds me that true power lies in knowing when to let go. Oshun knows her worth. If she's not being respected or appreciated, she simply withdraws and pushes back. It's not bitter, it's not mean, it's simply wisdom. Detachment in this sense is an act of self-preservation and self-respect. I actually have a video on self-preservation. I will attach it in the bio of this video. And detachment in this case is an act of self-preservation, like I said, and it's also an act of self-respect. So as a woman, you're basically saying that, look, I know who I am, and I won't stay where I'm not valued. Because why would you stay there? Why would you stay in a space, or why would you stay around people, whether platonic or romantic, that just tolerate you? They don't actually value and respect you as a woman. And this is something that I've had to learn the hard way because, in my romantic life, I've had a couple of exes that tried to spin the block. And of course, me being young and naive at the time, I was really attaching myself to the outcome of, okay, let's try this again, see where it goes. And even with my first boyfriend, I actually, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we actually started dating a second time. Like, we got back together after we initially went our own separate ways, and come to find out, it actually was still the same in terms of when we were first dating. There wasn't any growth, there wasn't any real connection left. And I realized very quickly that, okay, look, I'm not the same person that I was before. So why would I hang on to this person and have this emotional attachment to them? Why can I just detach the first time? And I know as women who have been in this situation, we tend to be really hard on ourselves. But again, there's a lot of wisdom that comes with that. And true wisdom is being able to apply what you've learned to help you move forward instead of repeating the cycle. I have a lot of responsibilities on me in order to break patterns and behaviors that I once upheld and thought were normal. I've actually had a couple more exes try to spin the block, but I think that was the universe's way of telling me that, Camille, if you do this, you're letting me know that you haven't learned the lesson and that you still have an emotional attachment to this person, and you're clinging on because you believe that there's not better out there for you. So you're not flowing like the water. You are basically showing and telling this person that, hey, look, I don't respect myself and you can do whatever you want, which is not how I want to be known as. And that's not how I carry myself as a woman. I'm basically going against myself by doing that. And it got to a point where I had to put my foot down with one particular ex that tried to come back and spin the block. And he would just say some very questionable and unkind things. And I think now that I reflect on it, it was a temperature check to see if I really hold value and respect in myself. And the universe is always going to give me clues. And my intuition was telling me that, look, this is not how I want to be treated, and I have to say something. And so I eventually addressed this to him, and I said, hey, look, like, what you're saying to me is not nice, and it's actually very hurtful. He would make comments about my looks, my body, and just do it in a very lustful way, and he also falsely accused me of something about myself that was completely untrue. And no woman wants to hear that, especially a feminine woman, so thankfully he apologized, as he should, and it shows that he has self-respect and integrity, and also, most importantly, he has respect for me. And I forgave him, but what happened next, I completely shocked myself, even to this day. I made a decision right then and there to just let him go. I don't need to be emotionally attached to you. And look, I'll be accountable as well. This whole experience told me that I also have work to do. So to save myself from potential harm and neglect, I have to emotionally detach. This was back in 2021, mind you, and I was just learning to like myself again. I was learning to watch the seeds that I planted start to grow. In my 20s, I didn't like who I was. I hated myself in terms of my decisions and my choices, and I don't want to go back to that. So why not plant new seeds and learn the lessons that I accumulated in my 20s and use those lessons to propel me forward. And to this day, it is so imperative to remove our emotional attachments to outcomes. And I was able to let this person go. And for those next 3 years, I was able to ascend even higher, not just mentally, but spiritually, even financially, right? So detachment is a tactic for protection, especially for women. I need women to really master this because it creates more space for things to come to you naturally rather than through force. And no matter what happens, ladies, because we are the feminine is abundant. And in order to receive abundance, it requires us to stay open, but grounded and loving and whole within ourselves. And that is something that Oshun really embodied. And I think that we can take a bit of Oshun and apply it to us in terms of the magnetic power of presence and being able to use that magnetic presence as grace and being able to walk away when needed. Too many women like to stick around because they like to hold on to hope. They hope that the man that they're with will stop treating them poorly. Well, how can you hope for that man to treat you well if you're going to continue to be around them? You have to pick up your dignity, you have to pick up your respect, and you have to know when to walk away. Because listen, too many women are effing around and finding out. Now, thankfully, some women learn the first time and make it out. Unfortunately, some women don't learn, and they learn repetitively to the point where they're no longer on this earth. So always master the power of detachment. Know when to walk away. And I'm so grateful to this day that I was able to walk away from people and situations with my self-respect and dignity still intact. I left unscathed, kind of like Lori Harvey, if you know what I'm saying. Not everything and everyone you feel connected to is meant to stay. There's so much power in detachment and emotionally removing ourselves from situations that no longer benefit us. So leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and let me know what you think.